Hey, YouTube, Chapter 7, How a Briar Pipe is Made. It is no easy task to perform a rough piece of natural briar into a fine pipe. The pipe that will smoke well and remain an object of lasting beauty. Skilled craftsmen, plus the best modern machinery, are required to create today's high-quality pipe. Before the development of the power-turning lathe, all pipes were made by hand. Pipe making was a carver's art, passed on for generations from father to son. Early briar pipes were ornately carved and as abundantly decorated as their forerunners, the clays and the meerschaums. And hand-carved pipes are still available today from most pipe manufacturers. These pipes come in various shapes and designs, depleting the heads of famous people or animals and any kinds of objects. That's since the end of the First World War. The trend has been away from ornamented hand-carved designs. Although the pipe carving art is still practiced, most of today's pipe smokers prefer the perfectly turned bowl, sleek finish, and scientific design of pipes made with power machinery. This does not mean that automatic machines turn out modern quality pipes by the million. On the contrary, it is highly unlikely that quality pipe manufacturers will ever be automated. It takes as many as 80 individual operations to transform a briar block into a finished pipe. Skilled craftsmen with years of experience and time-tested judgment control each of these operations. The machines they use merely provide the power and precision to produce the perfect pipe. Something no hand craftsman could ever hope to achieve. I think I need glasses, or it's pretty dark in here. Cutting the burl. The creation of the briar pipe begins in the factory, but in the region where the briar grows. When the digger has unearthed the briar burl, he chops away the inferior portions, then he brings the burl to the sawmill. The man who possesses the briar first must dry up all the moisture within the burl. They place the freshly cut briar in long, shallow trenches and cover it with the damp earth and straw. This permits the briar to mellow slowly without drying out too quickly. It is said that the best briar burls are those from plants which remain in the ground for several years. These presumably follows the moisture to dry out completely. Skilled workers then use high-speed circular saws to slice each burl into several pieces. After each slice is cut away, it is examined for cracks, flaws, and inferior wood. Each slice is then segmented into a number of more or less perfect briar blocks, roughly pipe-shaped and called ebauchons. I forgot how to say that. Ebauchons? A large prime burl will yield up to 50 briar blocks. From each block, a single pipe will be made. Most briar blocks from which pipes are eventually carved are about 3 inches in length, and the burl must be at least this diameter to be of any use. Young burls, however, are so small that the entire burl is required to make a pipe. Such a small burl does not make a good pipe because the entire burl must be used, including the poorer sections. Not all portions of the burl are of the best quality. The section where the soft, pulpy briar trunk passes through the burl is considered inferior. In fact, the trunk section within the burl differs only slightly from ordinary lumber. Thus, the choicest briar blocks are those cut from the side of the burl where the wood is hard and tightly grained. For this reason, some quality pipe manufacturers buy entire burls from the growers and cut the burl in their own workshops. Such procedure ensures that the manufacturer's best pipes will be made only from the choicest wood. It takes at least 40 years for burl to grow to the size large enough so that pipes are carved from it do not incorporate the poorer wood of the shank. Therefore, the choicest burls are vulnerable ones, often more than 100 years old. Processing the right size sturdiness, 4-year-old and even 12-year-old briar burleys usually yield inferior pipes. A pipe made from briar cut from inside the burl, not including the trunk, will usually possess superb grain and free from flaws. Here's a little picture of a standard shape for a briar block, and then here's a partially formed briar pipe shaped by machine to simplify the hand carving. A little picture there. Curing the briar blocks. Briar is wood, and like all wood, when freshly cut, contains moisture in the form of sap. Ordinarily green wood, such as pine board, may be cured simply by allowing the sap to dry. When pine lumber is made into a table or chair, it never experiences intense heat. As a result, it gives satisfactory performance. But a piece of briar made into a pipe becomes, in fact, a small furnace. As a result, it must be treated differently. If the sap were allowed to remain in the briar, it would melt when subjected to heat and would soon be forced to the surface of the bowl, where it would appear as a sticky mess. Some of the sap would also be consumed along with the tobacco inside the bowl, and the smoker would experience a bitter, unpleasant taste. The removal of the natural sap also allows the wood to breathe. Pipes made from the best wood, correctly cured, will give a sweet smoke and increasingly satisfaction over the years. To remove the tar and the resins which have hardened with the briar blocks, the briar is boiled from 24 to 48 hours or longer. At the end of that time, the tars and resins have been replaced with water, and the water is then allowed to evaporate. The drying must be done slowly, otherwise the blocks will split and become useless. The blocks are dried for a minimum of 3 months and up to 3 years in certain cases. For this entire period, they are kept in a moisture-free room at normal temperature, protected from the weather, but not subject to artificial heat. The blocks are then placed in a special drying rooms, and air is circulated over the entire surface of each block. Over a period of several weeks, workers slowly raise the temperature in these rooms. The operation is complete when the wood is bone dry. The blocks are then graded and bundled into burlap bags for shipment, each bag containing from 60 to 85 dozen blocks. When the dried blocks reach the pipe factory, They must pass through the hands of skilled inspectors who grade the blocks according to the size and possible flaws. Some surface defects may extend deeply into the block. Other buried flaws may not be noticeable until the block is cut. Men who have worked with briar for many years usually do the inspecting. They save the manufacturer the expense of shaping a pipe that will later have to be discarded. Shaping the bowl. The first actual shaping operation performed on the block is that of fashioning the bowl. Especially adapted woodworking lathes equipped with extremely hard metal cutters, not easily dulled by rough briar wood, and are used for this job. Nevertheless, the briar is so hard that these cutters must frequently be sharpened. The block, held firmly in a vise, is pushed slowly onto the high-speed revolving bit, which looks somewhat like an old-fashioned lemon squeezer, with two wing blades attached. The revolving bit bores the inside of the bowl and shapes the outer at the same time, down to the level of the shank. This operation demands the utmost skill. The bowl must be centered and bored to the precise correct depth. The shape of the bowl and the thickness of its wall at various points must be scientifically proportioned according to the weight and design of the pipe. Shaping the pipe. After the upper part of the bowl has been bored and shaped, the remainder of the pipe, including the shank, is accurately shaped on the phrasing machine, a device that holds a metal model of the particular pipe design to be copied. A cam moves along the metal model and forces the cutting wheel to follow the shape of the model that cuts through the briar block. The phrasing machine resembles in principle of the machine a locksmith uses in making of copying the keys. If you ever seen a key copier, they put a key in and then it goes along and copies, transfers the marks from the key that you have to the blank. Now I lost my spot. Oh, the metal model on the phrasing machine determines the style and size of the finished pipe. Particularly, all pipe manufacturers follow the generally accepted styles such as billiard, pear, apple, Dublin, and bulldog. However, each pipe manufacturer includes small variations to make his pipe shape distinctive. As the pipe takes shape on the phrasing machine, a skilled craftsman with a sharp eye watches for defects, which appear suddenly as the surface of the wood is cut away. If a flaw is shallow, it may be removed in future finishing steps. If it's deep, the pipe will have to be scraped. A pipe maker, proud of his workmanship, never stamps his name on an imperfect pipe. Boring the shank. After the shank and the bowl have been cut to shape, the next step is to bore the hole in the shank large enough to take the tenon, the part of the stem that fits into the shank. One of the most delicate and important operations in making a pipe. If the direction of the cut is not true to the walls, if the direction of the cut is not true, the walls of the shank will lack uniform thickness, and the pipe will be out of balance. Also, the hole may fail to pierce the bowl at the exact bottom point. Shank drilling is a precise task that only the most skilled pipe makers can perform. The hand-operated, electrically powered drill is used to bore the air chamber and the center of the shank up to the depth of about 1 inch. The next step is more difficult. Every piece of briar has hard and soft spots, straight grain, and twisted grain. The result of the briar's plant struggle during its growth. Briar is not a homogeneous material like plastic or metal. It takes a sensitive hand to detect when the drill is penetrating the shank too rapidly due to a soft spot, or boring too slowly due to a hard spot, or particle of or due to a hard spot or particle of sand embedded in the briar. A twist of the grain direction might deflect the drill, causing it to go off center. And I've done that too. I've been drilling a bore and it ain't been precise and it went through the bottom or came up too high. And then sometimes when you're drilling it goes real soft and then or hard, and then you're putting a certain amount of pressure and then all of a sudden it just takes off and goes too far. So there's a lot of pictures here in the next couple pages, so I'll read the little tiny bit that it has and try to show you the pictures, but I can barely make them out. But it's old machinery that they used to use on the lathes that used to make the pipe, but I'll run them by you. The briar blocks from each pipes will be shaped, must first be air drilled, cured under controlled heat several months. That's on the center top. Blocks are graded in the shape and sizes on the center and the bottom. And partially, okay. This just basically tells you what, and you can't see, so I don't know why I'm showing you. I'm not going to show them to you. And it just shows, I have very bad lighting in here. I'm wasting time on the video, so it just shows them working the lathe and drilling the shanks and the tenon hole and stuff like that. And then there's Mr. Weber himself. Let me see if I can. There's Mr. Weber himself inspecting some of his pipes. I think you could see that one. Kind of a lighter picture. And that one says, a specially designed machine routes a tiny groove in the stem on the left, which is the pipe maker's emblem, and in the inserted. The final inspection of the finished pipes are made by Carl Weber at the right. He evaluates the pipes according to the beauty in their grain, the absence of flaws, the true bore of the air hole, and the quality of the finish. To determine the quality of each pipe, Carl Weber draws on more than 50 years of experience in pipe manufacture. That was the picture of him. Let's see. Take a little break for a minute, and then we got like a couple more pages here. Yep, we got maybe let's see, 3 or 4 more pages. We'll take a little break for a second. Pipe stems. After the shank has been drilled and the pipe stem has been fitted to the pipe itself, the size of the tenon and the hole in the shank must match to within a small fraction of an inch in order to ensure a snug fit. If the tenon turns out to be too small or the hole to the shank too big, the stem will be loose and pull out easily. If the fit is too tight, on the other hand, the pipe smoker is likely to break the shank or the stem when trying to remove the latter for cleaning. Any hard, durable, and tasteless material is suitable for making a pipe stem or bit. The ideal inexpensive material common used in most modern pipes is vulcanite, another name for hard rubber. Amber, both rare and expensive, is also used on occasion. Some manufacturers use transparent or colored plastic stems, but these are often very brittle and hard on the teeth. On the other hand, the soft bits are prone to lose their shape occasionally if the pipe is allowed to become warm. Stems of wood or ivory and other exotic materials have never stood up to the demands of pipe smoking and are seen only rarely nowadays. And this was back in 60-something, so they're almost unheard of now. Vulcanite may be purchased by the manufacturer in pre-bored long black cylinders. The manufacturer then cuts it into the desired length and shapes it with grinding wheels. Fine abrasives are used so that the bit will take on its own distinctive, luxurious, velvety polish. Unusual stem shapes are cut from large vulcanite blocks. Cured stems are made from softening the bit with heat and bending the tubing to the desired shape. When the bit cools, its curve is permanently set. More often, hard rubber bits are formed in compression or injectable molds. The compression molding vulcanite powder is compressed through heat into half stem shape. Two halves are then joined together with heat and the joining mark ground off. In injection molding, molten rubber is forced under pressure into a die. The die is then cooled by immersing it in water, which is open to yield a perfectly shaped pipe stem. Many manufacturers purchase their pipe stems ready-made, so that stems must only be custom fitted to the pipes and finished. All the final sanding and polishing operations are performed with the stem firmly in the pipe. This ensures that the pipe and the stem will match perfectly. This is why you cannot take two similar pipes and transpose the stems, for the stems will rarely, if ever, match. Now the word about amber, beautiful golden yellow amber, consists of petrified resin solidified into a hard, resilient substance over hundreds of years. Found along the coast of the Baltic Sea, I'm sure they meant coast, it is mined like any other precious or semi-precious stone. Then it is divided into rectangular cakes from which the craftsmen fashion the beautiful pipe stems. Unfortunately, amber is highly flammable. It may burst into flame during the manufacturing operations, or even while the smoker is puffing on it. As mentioned earlier, amber is so expensive that it rarely seen outside of pipe collections or on top quality meerschaum pipes. Finishing the pipe. Even after the craftsman has rough shaped the pipe in the phrasing machine and fitted it with a stem, many operations are still required before the pipe is ready to be smoked. It must be a hand sanded down to very smooth, even finish, although the use of progressively finer grades of sandpaper spread over high-speed wheels that conform to the shape of the pipe. As many as 15 grades of sandpaper may be employed to polishing. Final sanding with a very fine emery cloth leaves the bowl and the shanks as smooth and clean as a spotless piece of glass. The sanding proceeds under the constant vigilance of experienced workers whose alert eyes detect the most minute flaws. If these craftsmen suspect a flaw penetrates deeply within the wood, the pipe is discarded. The pipe stem also receives its share of sanding and a final finishing with a fine emery cloth. And then on this one they show an ordinary stone found buried deep in the briar block shows how quick rocky soil is where briar grows. See that little stone, the little dot right there on the top? That's after they carved the shape of the bowl and they found a rock. After the pipe gets its final dress, the pipe maker may pass it on to an expert carver. The pipe may often be chosen for carving if it has minor surface defects, but that is not necessarily so. The carver may eliminate surface blemishes which could have little or no effect on the smoking qualities of the pipe. The expert pipe carver knows how to give any pipe a new face depending on its size, shape, and quality. The carving expert may well produce a more beautiful pipe, lighter, easier on the teeth, and one that cools faster due to the increased surface area produced by the indentations on the carved bowl. Minor surface imperfections which would not impair the smoking quality of the pipe are filled so that the finished pipes will possess a smooth, even surface. The pipe now undergoes inspection for grain and quality. It is a top-grade pipe with outstanding grain. It may receive only a coat of oil or hard carnauba wax before the final buffing and polishing. As an alternative, the beauty of the briar grain may be brought out by staining. Light, delicate colors result in finishes such as russet oak, virgin walnut bowls with less distinctive grain patterns show up beautifully stained with darker cherry or plum colors. After staining, some pipes may be lacquered or varnished, others may just be oiled and waxed. Buffing follows on all types of pipes, both stained and virgin briars. The buffing wheels bring out grain pattern, remove excess stain, and help with color penetrate into the briar. Pipes are intended to receive a smooth finish, may be sandblasted, giving finish variously called thorn, rustic, relief, or shell. The jet of sand cuts away the softer parts of the grain, leaving the hard portions standing out like the shell of a walnut. Another type processing involves boiling the briar bowls in oil for several days. It gives them a dark color without the use of the stain or varnish might clog the pores of the wood. After finishing the pipe, it is ready for final examination. An examination that largely determines the price. The inspector checks the cleanliness of the bowl, the trueness of the hole, both bowl and shank, the snug fit of the stem, the quality of the waxing and staining processes, the beauty of the grain, and the pipe's overall balance and appearance. This inspection determines the ultimate selling price of the pipe. Pipe making will remain an art as long as nature supplies the briar for craftsmen to shape. Some shapes of some pipes there.